take it over an hour. I mean, like.
Ron? Welcome to another edition of Mark's Inspiration, the Power is Within podcast. And I'll do a plug on my book here. Pick it up at Amazon, The Power is Within. I'm sure it will be of value to you and help you to get going in the direction that you want to go to achieve your dreams. Tonight's topic is, and we had a guest coming, but he is late, so he will come on in once he gets here. Tonight's topic is the myth of the one. Like there's one girl or one guy for everybody. Like there's only one out there. Out of the billions of people, there's this idea or this myth or this fairy tale or Disneyland story that there's only one person out there that's right for you. Whether you be a girl or a guy, man or woman, whatever, that there's only one. And the problem with this myth of the one is people get hung up on one person, and then if that relationship doesn't work out, they may pine for this person for weeks, months, even years, thinking that there's no one else that could be possibly as good for them as this one person. And there are many ones out there. I know from experience I've had the one about 5 or 6 times in my life. Maybe 10 times, I'm not sure. But I understand the feeling because especially when you break up, it's like you don't think there's anybody else that can fill that gap that you have, because when you get used to being with someone like that, and all of a sudden the relationship falls apart or you grow apart or whatever happens, there is an emptiness and a kind of a withdrawal, just like from drugs. So you think that if you just had that back. But the reason you're not with the person is because it wasn't working out anyway. Mm-hmm. So you really just need to move on, enjoy that, or be grateful for the time you had with that person and learn from the experience. And life is a change. That's one thing for certain about life, is it's constantly changing. Everything changes. And that's what we resist, and that's what brings us a lot of unhappiness and suffering, is our resistance to change, especially in intimate relationships. So have any of you ever heard of the myth of the one, or hear people talk about they just want to find that one that's perfect for them?
I mean, yeah, I've heard it quite a bit. I was really one of the people who was looking. I thought that there was a one, you know what I'm saying? Because most of my friends, their parents were what seemed like on the outer surface is that they are happy with each other and stuff like that. And for the most part, it looks like that on the outside, and then that's not the case. So really, that's another thing that messes up a lot of the kids my age now, or people my age, is just they think that they have to stay with that one person because they think that they're the one, and they're not even willing to try to, you know what, it's like, okay, I'm happy with this person. Maybe, I need to move on. Maybe this person isn't the one. So the idea of them potentially not being the one never crosses people's mind. Right. You know what I'm saying? That's true.
Well, our guest Calvin is here.
Hello.
Glad you could make it. He's just a couple minutes late. Calvin, we're talking about the myth of the one. Like there's just one person for each person out there, the soulmate myth, or we call it a myth, but we think there are many ones, but because there's billions of people in the world, so surely there's more than just one person for each of us, I think. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my parents have been married about almost 35 years, I'd say. But, they've had obvious, big problems and stuff, right. Financial issues, mm-hmm. Multiple things throughout those 35 years that most people probably wouldn't put up with. So,
mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'd say it's very unrealistic to, especially if you don't have all your stuff together mentally, to
mm-hmm.
Expect that out of someone to just stay, be your ride or die or whatever.
Yeah.
It's very unrealistic and unfair to
mm-hmm.
other people.
Well, many people are looking for, as you said, your parents had problems. Everyone has problems. Yeah. Life is a continuation of problems, and it's up to us to live in the solutions or seek solutions. But so many people, and I probably felt this way in my younger years, are looking for that one person that's going to just make everything okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's like this, there's one person out there and you meet her or him if you're a girl, and everything's just going to be okay. But as you said, even your parents and people that have been together a long time, they're going to have difficulties and problems. Because whenever you put two people in the same house together, once the honeymoon stage is over, which is 3, 6 months, year, whatever it happens to be, and then what do they say? You don't really know somebody until you live with them, and I find that to be true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really, like I said, for the most part, social media does it a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? People
romanticizing
it,
exactly.
not ever posting like, You know what I'm saying? No, I mean, no one really wants to see you post like, oh, we just got into a fight, but we got
Right,
over it. I mean, no one
right.
really cares.
Yeah.
Just kind of like no one cares that you're posting, you know, your boyfriend or girlfriend on your social media. The thing about it with that is just kind of like I said, people just see, they're like, oh man, like look at how they're doing.
Yeah.
They're doing great. Man, like that's how it looked like on my social media, you know,
Right.
from prior experiences. It looked fantastic. You know, we were a very good looking couple, you know, had some fun and everything, but then behind closed doors, you know, we're at each other's throats all the time, you know,
Right.
says something dumb, I'm like, man, come on. It's like, I was living with her. I'm like, geez, man, you know what I'm saying? So really for the most part is like how social media romanticizes it. And that's really where people get stuck. They get stuck.
Yeah.
They're like, oh man, it's like, I want to be with this. I want to be part of that
Right.
wave of people that
Yeah.
has like a relationship that I want to be like them. I want to be able to post my girlfriend, boyfriend. I want to do whatever I can, you know what I'm saying, to make sure everyone knows I'm happy. And when people are doing it the most, that's when you kind of know that like the relationship probably isn't going that well. Exactly. So
It's like my mama said, you never know what goes on behind closed
Yeah.
doors. I forgot to introduce. You guys need to introduce yourselves. And my co-host here, Henry.
I'm 18.
I'm Mark, I'm 21.
I'm Claude. I'm 19.
I'm Paulina. I'm 14.
I'm Calvin. I'm 20.
Okay, so we will continue about the myth of the one, the girl that's going to make, or the boy, it's going to make everything okay. Your life's going to be great. Then we have Paulina here. She now has a new friend. She broke up with her old boyfriend.
Come on, let us know. So,
Come
so
on,
what's,
Paulina, what
what's
do you think about the myth of the one? Is there just one guy out there for you that's just going to everything? Your Prince Charming
Yeah,
is going to come and sweep you. He's going to come on a white horse and sweep you off your feet, and you're going to live happily ever after, just like the Disneyland story.
Yeah.
I don't know because I'm only 14. I still have like the whole bunch ahead of me. So I know I'm going to go through a lot more breakups, and I'm going to go through dating a lot more guys thinking that they're going to be the one, and they're not going to be. And it's going to be a while till I actually find the one, even though there's not going to always just be one guy. Like even if I like marry someone, maybe we get into a big fight and he's not actually the one. It's
Yeah.
always like if you guys really do love each other, you'll find your way back to each other, but that usually never happens.
Yeah.
So
Or you move on.
yeah, you move on, and then I guess it just takes a while to actually find the one.
And see, just like Mark said about the whole social media thing, you see somebody being happy and you want to be like that, and you feel lonely or whatever happens to be. So your main goal becomes trying to find the one, as we were saying.
As opposed to your main goal being like finding
Yeah.
Yourself,
and
And then
finding
along the way, maybe
goals.
meeting someone that
Exactly.
you can get along with or be together with, you know?
You have to be happy within yourself and by yourself before you can be happy with anybody else. So many people go through life thinking if they just meet that right person, they're going to be happy. You got to be okay with yourself. You got to be able to go out and have a good time by yourself. When you find the happiness within yourself, then you can be happy with somebody else. Because when you put two people together, you have double the problems.
Yeah,
You see,
yeah.
You're never going to agree upon everything. And if it's a healthy relationship, I don't think you really should agree on everything all the time.
Yeah.
You can disagree, but not in a dissensive.
Yeah.
Agree to disagree,
Argument.
kind
Yeah.
of, sort of.
Also goes along with like emotional labor, you know?
Yeah.
Like not being like expecting someone to just fix everything in your life
Yeah,
is completely unfair
exactly.
to that person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
and then-
dumping all your problems on them. is
Exactly,
unfair
and
to,
then
like,
a
get
lot of
therapist.
people our age too. You see is that like a lot of people, including myself, I was up until like not that long ago. Like it really took me a minute to
Yeah,
do
me
this,
too.
but I feared to be alone.
Yeah.
Being alone. I'm talking.
Right.
I'm not talking just with a girl. I'm talking about being in a room alone and being able to sit with my thoughts and be okay. You know what I'm saying? Because I would if I wasn't with at the time my girlfriend. I was with my friends. I made sure that I was around some friends. After like a while, I kind of realized I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not willing, not necessarily willing, but it's hard for me to be alone. And that, like I said, that was another thing. At that point, it went beyond, I guess, a relationship. And I was like, oh man, I just got to make sure I'm with somebody all the time. So really people just fear being alone. So when you
Right.
find a girlfriend, boom, there goes that problem seems to go away
Yeah.
until, you guys break up and then you realize, oh crap, like I'm in a really bad position right now. Like it's hard to be alone. It's hard to
Yeah.
just, you always want to be with friends or something. But like I said, people completely dismantle the problem for like the average now is like maybe 4 or 5 months a piece. Like, you know, they dismantle for 4 or 5 months a piece by going and getting a girlfriend or going and getting a boyfriend. It's like, oh, you don't have to worry about being alone now because you have a boyfriend or a
And then
girlfriend.
the new wears off, and then they
And then
start.
it's like,
Yeah.
and
you're
that-
back to square one.
back to square one, and then
Exactly,
you're
yeah.
trying to find another person, and then it just really just makes that issue
Actually, you're
worse.
looking for someone to fix you, to make you okay.
To make
It's
you
never-
okay,
Never going to
exactly.
happen. You'd be
Nobody
going-
can fix you but yourself.
Yeah, I mean, like Claude, for example, I already know it's been a while since you've been interested in being in a relationship with someone. I mean, you've probably
Yeah.
been interested, but you just kind of stray away from that. I noticed that you're really good at just being alone, chilling, you know, on your own.
Yeah, the thing is that, like, you know, it's easier being single than it is because in a lot of relationships,
For
there's,
sure.
you know, like how you said, like, you don't know what happens behind closed doors. I don't want to have to deal with that, so that's one of the reasons I
Yeah.
stay single. But the thing is that when, like, the one, they push it so much in social media and in movies, like in movie scenes. they'll be
movies
like,
for sure.
they'll ask,
Hollywood's
yeah, he'll
really
ask,
bad
about
is
that.
she the one?
Yeah.
And the thing is that like if like for example, one of my buddies, he had ended up breaking up with you know, his girlfriend and all that, and he was talking to me about it, and he's like, oh, she's the one. Okay, if she was the one, there would not be that term. There is plenty fish in the sea.
Right.
Yeah, and really, that's the kind of thing, you know. Like, I guess, really, you know, going back to the myth of being the one. I mean, I've had a couple ones, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm really only a couple. I'm only 21, you know what I'm saying? So it hasn't been that long. But I've had maybe 2 or 3 that I can think of off the top of my head. And then afterwards, you know, when we broke up or we separated or whatever the case might have been, the next one was always better. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
really,
'cause
and
you
that,
know what you want more
and-
after. a
yeah,
breakup.
exactly. And the thing is, too, is like a lot of people let fear stop them. Like,
Yeah.
they just are so scared of the unknown when it comes to breaking up. They're like, well, what if I just can't find. One of the main fears that I guess that I had is like, what if I can't find someone as beautiful or that's upkept as you know, her or whatever? And then, you know, 2-3 weeks later, I found somebody
Right.
identical.
So what
to
happens
that.
is people stay in a relationship longer than they really
One.
is healthy because
Yeah.
they're afraid of the unknown, even though they're miserable and what they're in
Yeah.
is not working.
Yeah.
But if a person doesn't break up and work on themselves, they will find themselves right back in the same thing with another girl or guy in the same person, the same situation with a different face.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
until you figure out why you continue to do the same thing over and over.
And really, too, a thing about that is people like will sometimes will stay with the person that they're with, you know, whoever it might be, and will be like, well, I'm trying to figure out what this issue is, you know what I'm saying? But really, most of the time, what they need to do is just, you know, they need to separate from each other, they need to break up, and you need to go find out what that issue was within yourself. Because it's really, the thing is, you know, for example, with me, the reason why I didn't want to break up, I guess, with the person that I was with was because, well, I need to figure out what's going on now. And it was an excuse, you know. I was like, I need to figure out what's going on between her and I. Otherwise, the next girl I go and date, we're going to have the same problem. But in reality, what I needed to do was break up with her and figure out what the hell was going on within myself.
It's really hard to see things clearly when you're so focused on the other person in the relationship. I know the farther you're away from a relationship, the easier it is to see things from a more a less emotional view. And Paulie, how about you? You broke up. What happened there?
I ended up losing feelings for the guy, and we tried figuring it out for about a week, and then we both decided that it was the best idea to break up, give it some time, and if things work out, then things work out. Like, we're not going to force it. Neither of us are going to force it, try to be together, like, if it's not actually going to work. So right now we're just friends, and we don't really try to talk about it as much because then that's sort of trying to force us back
Why do you
together.
think you lost feelings for him?
I don't know. Maybe because us FaceTiming a lot,
Yeah.
talking a little bit too much. There's a lot of like free time on both of our hands. So
It's a
We're
pretty
both-
healthy outlook for being 14.
so so
Like-
both of us talked a lot. Like
Too much time.
yeah, a little bit
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. People get comfortable and like you get in a relationship and you're together all the time. You start getting comfortable, and then when you comes to the time when you're breaking up because you're having problems, that's when people struggle. Because she's the one, you know. That's what they say. But
Really, that's, you know, like you said, it's like too much time. It's easy to give everybody your time now.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
you got phones, like you emails,
If
anything,
you-
text, whatever. You can literally, you can end up messing up and giving them
Yeah,
literally all your time.
We expect an immediate response.
Yeah,
It's
instant
just so
gratification.
easy to get a hold of somebody, and when we don't, they don't answer us back in an hour, 2 hours, whatever.
Yeah,
We
that was kind of
wonder
like
what's
what
going
we were
on.
talking about last time. It's like, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes no one will be hitting me up. My group chats won't even be talking or anything, and it's kind of like, you know, like kind of like.
Well, do you
okay.
guys?
No one likes me.
Yeah, that's literally how you feel. You're like, man.
You guys know anybody that's actually off themselves because they were so in love, and that is a common
Yeah,
thing too.
there's-
Men commit suicide over this sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know anybody personally, but I know like that this one kid who passed away around the same time that my buddy Sam passed away. He was trying to be with this girl, and you know she was a really pretty girl. I mean, don't get me wrong, she was gorgeous, but she was just not right up here. And he went home and did whatever. And for a long time, they were in this big stage, like the working it out stage. That's a new stage in relationships now. So, you know, it's like regular meeting, the talking stage, and then relationship. But then now there's another stage. So meeting, talking, the relationship, and then working it out, trying to work it out. So, you know, and really that's something that was never really focused on for quite some time. Like, but a lot of people end up in that situation where like, we're working it out, you know, we're working it out and just messing each other up even worse because they're not willing to let each other go. And both parties, most of the time, really know that they need to, like, we need to end this off.
Deep down. Yeah.
Deep down. And it's always like that. But the problem is, it's just, and I understand it's scary for them. They don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if and what people think is like, oh, what if I don't find a girlfriend or something in the next couple
Right.
years? That's how it's supposed to go, you know?
Well, most women usually have somebody lined up, right, Polly, before they break up with the last one. Then I think
Yeah.
that's a term called monkey branching. I've heard.
That's
it's called.
funny.
Well, but they do, and I think it's an evolutionary thing because for thousands of years, if a woman didn't have a man, she would die.
She would die, yeah.
I mean, it's not like that today. So they had to have something secure before they let go of the security they had that maybe they were tired of or didn't want to be with anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, for the most part, you know, really, I mean, you can tell that to most guys, and they probably won't believe it. You know, I mean, if you have real good,
I'd say that a lot of men would do the same though. Like I've done the same. If
yeah,
something's
but
not
that's
really working
only
out,
that's
you know,
only certain people. I mean, really, for example, let's say you're like a womanizer. You know, you're obviously gonna have your
you
women.
you got other women.
You
yeah.
got other women, and it's not necessarily about, you know what I'm saying, kind of like
For security.
Yeah, exactly. So like women just do that subconsciously, and it could be like for the longest time there'll be this one guy that'll be like, oh, he's just my friend, and really genuinely like for the time being they were just friends until boom, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, you guys break up, and then
whether they
you-
realized it or
that-
not.
they,
you know.
yeah, and really for the most part, it like from the surface level, they don't. You know, it's like, oh, we're friends, and then after you guys break up, they end up being with that person because they're giving them the attention that they lost right away.
Right.
And you know, and like I said about my buddy, you know, he went home, he found out that she had another boyfriend because she ended up going and dating somebody else like right after they broke up. And as soon as that happened, like 2-3 days later, you know, he went and offed himself because he literally had said, my world is like, you know, completely over because of her, because she's gone.
Yeah, and that's not a place for a man to be. No woman wants a man that is so wrapped up in her that she don't think he can continue on if something happens
It's not
to
a
her.
healthy thing to think.
No,
It puts too
not
much
even.
pressure on the girl.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's really it's like unfair. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you're sitting there, you're like, oh, it's like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to hold myself together if we break up. That changes how someone thinks. Think about it like that. You know, you have a friend. Even as a man, you have one of your friends with you, and you're like, man, if you and I quit being friends, man, I don't know what the hell I'd do. I don't
Yeah.
want somebody weak
Yeah.
around me. Like I don't need someone weak like that. So I could only imagine what it's like coming from like being in a woman's perspective when a guy's like, oh, if we break up, I'd probably die, or you know, for
A
like
lot of guys say that nowadays. Oh, I'd
Yeah.
kill myself, or I can't make it without you, or whatever.
Or-
but then the media portrays that in these movies a lot of times.
Yeah,
These
they make it
guys
seem-
chasing these
yeah.
women around, and I can't live without. Well,
Yeah.
the songs. Listen to the
yeah,
songs.
Yeah.
the songs.
Even in the '80s, when I was listening to it, the songs "I Can't Live Without Your Love," and it's like
there are literally like 80 songs called "Without You," and it's about like I cannot be without you. You know, like
I mean, so these things over and over for a period of years actually program people.
People.
People don't realize how much that influences their subconscious mind, and they start believing this that they can't live without certain people. But we all can live without other people.
other folks, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of going back to the whole thing. You know, being afraid of being alone. You know, you're really just afraid of being alone. Like you know, you guys separating and just kind of like, you know, some days you're just gonna have to sit there, you know, and just get up and do something. Use that time, you know. But like we're talking about, you know, most women don't want you know, your girlfriend asks you, what would you do if I got in a car accident and died? You know, what you think they want to hear is like, oh man, I'd probably go get in my car and wreck because I can't live without you. I'd go kill myself in the car. You know, really, what you just kind of got to be like, really, is just, you know, it'd suck. You know, it'd suck. It really would. I'd mourn you, just like all my other friends. It would hurt, but I can't live in the past, and I can't sit
You
there
gotta
and
move
dwell
on,
on it.
yeah.
You got to move on.
I've been asked that question by 2 women I was married to, and both times I answered, I said, well, it would be tough, but I'd be fine. It's like, well, you wouldn't even care. I said, no, that's what they want to hear. They may act angry about it, but they want to know you can go on, especially if you got kids, because somebody
you
has to
can't
press
slack
on.
if you got kids.
Yeah, especially if you got kids. Imagine saying, like, you know, some people our age, a lot of people our age have kids, and you see them post on their like Snapchat, like, and most of the time they don't say it, but most of the time it's problems with their girlfriend or something.
Right.
And then they'll be like, man, I don't even want to be here no more. It's like, dude, you have a
Yeah.
child,
Yeah.
bro. Like, you brought another
Yeah,
life
you
into
have a
this.
responsibility to your kids.
Yeah,
gotta be here,
now
dude.
you have you ain't sorry
got a
you don't have a
choice.
choice now. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of the like a big a contradicting problem that a lot of people our age have. You know, they have kids and then they'll get in something like, oh, I don't even want to be alive. You don't have a choice, buddy. You got a kid now. You know, you have to be there for him. You know, and
Yeah, actually, suicide is very. I mean, I think everybody at one time in their life has thought about offing themselves.
Yeah.
Some people, unfortunately, take action on it,
Yeah.
but suicide is really one of the most selfish things you can do because of the people you leave behind. And sure, you're out of it, although I don't believe you actually escape it. I think you have to go through it sometime.
sometime again,
in some other realm, but that's
Yeah.
just my opinion. But the people you leave behind are the ones that suffer. I mean,
Yeah.
the kids. How many kids? Their parents are gone and they don't know. I know a guy that his parent he just died, but he never really had a relationship with him. I know sometime down the road, he was going to wish. Because I know there's things about my father, and I would like to ask him, but I didn't think about it when he was alive. Now he's gone. It's like, and there's
Yeah.
nobody to ask. So.
Yeah, and that's you know, really just that's really honestly a completely different problem. But like nowadays, the basis of the problem is relationships. You know, a lot of people take their lives because of an awful relationship, or they just will get out the relationship and just feel so awful about themselves. They'll just be like,
Well, I think
"Man,
it's normal to be depressed and kind of down. They say it's actually like a withdrawal from chemicals when you break up with somebody. You get used to talking to somebody every day and going out with them. It's
Yeah.
really tough because then all of a sudden there's like this void in your life and you have to find something else to do.
Yeah.
The best thing I've found to do when you break up with somebody, because I've been through a few divorces, as you know, is to just look within. I mean, that's where the answers lie, and work on yourself, because otherwise you end up repeating the same thing over and over again. But most people don't want to do that. A lot of people do this no contact, but they do it to get their girl back or maybe to get the guy back. And if they don't change, guess what? They get her back, and then it's the same old
It's the
thing
same
over
thing.
again.
Yeah.
I
You
definitely
have
Right
to
from-
change
right back to the
yourself.
start.
And if you grow, most of the time, by the time he or she does come back, unless that person is working on themselves too, which is rare for both of them to do that, then you don't want, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I remember a couple times in my youth, the girl I went out with for 5 years, and I partied a lot when I was with her when I was younger, but then I started boxing and I quit drinking, so I ended up breaking up because I run around her a lot and felt guilty about it. So we broke up. It was a mutual understanding thing. And then we got together about 6 months, a year later, and we
Yeah.
kissed, and it just wasn't.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
It just wasn't there. We both kind of said it just didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of that woman today. I mean, was really good to me, but it just wasn't there.
Yeah.
Because
Two
we had
different
both changed.
Points, yeah.
Yeah.
Progression.
And Claude, like, I mean, really, I know, like you said, it's been a long time since you've had really wanted to get in a relationship or something like that. But that's the one thing that I did notice from you is like when you and, your latest, girlfriend broke up, I noticed that the main thing you went and did was go and work on yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And really, like, we all personally know the girl, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, she's just kind of, that's like you said, both parties don't technically always go and work on themselves, and some people, in some cases they do, but like you said, even when you guys come back, there'll be a point where you just, like you said, you kiss and you're like, what happened, and like you're just kind of like, where is it at? So
the
like
magic is gone.
Another thing about that is, whenever people get into relationships, I mean, in most common times after they break up and try to work it out, it's because they have problems inside of them. So they're trying to look for, like they try to keep that relationship going because emotionally they're not okay, but
Yeah, they're trying to find some sort of happiness from.
they're trying to
Yeah.
they're trying to have that person support them. but
Yeah,
they,
and another
they
thing-
have to work on themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Another thing too is it's like if you don't usually come from a healthy household and you have certain examples, it's hard to have a good relationship with other
Yeah.
people.
And how many healthy how many healthy households are out there? I mean, everybody has some kind of dysfunction in their
Yeah.
family.
Yeah, go ahead.
My parents are a really good relation, like example
Yeah.
of a relationship, but they've gone through you know troubles with family,
Yeah.
you know, their kids. It's been other outside issues that has put stress on them in their relationship.
So,
So,
Yeah.
like
like-
at one point, they almost got a divorce when we were
Yeah,
young.
yeah.
They never
Yeah.
told us because they did all their fighting, all their whatever behind closed doors. You know?
That's good. Now you see,
Yeah.
some people like they don't. Some people do it in front of their kids, and then they end up, and those
Traumatizing.
kids end up
Yeah.
Yeah.
going and getting into a relationship
they have
exactly
the
like
same,
that,
yeah.
and they almost
Right.
they know it's wrong, but they're just so comfortable.
It's
in
been
being-
normalized.
but
Yeah.
normalized.
And
yeah.
so many people stay together for the kids, but yet the example of the relationship they're
Yeah.
putting out there is not.
And that's really,
Exactly.
even then too, you know, like you said, they stay together for the kids, but you'd be better off to show the kids that sometimes not everything works, you know.
Right.
Not that,
That's kinda-
and
Yeah.
really, technically, you think about it, what's a healthy household? You know, what's
Right.
really a healthy household? You know, because I mean, like I thought, you know, for the longest time that if you know if my parents stayed together, you know, I'd have a healthy household, and you know, I'd go to friends' houses where their parents would still be together and stuff, but they hated each other. I mean, I could just tell. So it's really, I'm kind of sitting there. I take my experience in, and I'm like, would I rather have both parents who hate each other, you know, and are always at each other's necks and pretty much fighting what feels like is about us, or would I just rather have one parent who is, you know, going to take care of themselves and take care of us as well while I'm living in the house?
Yeah.
Really, that's a big question to ask yourself as a
Yeah.
young kid.
It's like
but
a
if you
10-year-old, yeah.
but if you can manage to do it, you know, like we did, like we've all have, you just kind of, you know, you kind of move past it. It doesn't bother you as much. You know, like you don't feel the necessity for mommy and daddy to be together. You know, you're like, okay, I see the problem. And then you understand it more when you get in a relationship, when you get your first girlfriend or something. Maybe you guys break up because you didn't want it, or maybe you both didn't want it, or maybe she didn't want it. You get to understanding, oh, okay, so that's probably what happened with mom and dad. You know, like we broke up, for example, let's say the maybe third or fourth relationship I was in, we liked each other at first. We were very into each other. And then afterwards we just both kind of got very bored. This kind of little kick that I got, like you said, when we kissed or something wasn't there at all. And it was just because we were hanging out all the time and talking all the time.
Yeah.
But then, you know, we ended up, after a minute, I was like, hey, like, you know, do you feel? And she's like, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. So we're both like, okay, well, you know, have a good time. You know, we're going to split up here. And we ended up splitting up. And then like a year or two later, I got older and I thought about, oh man, it's like, okay, so some relationships doing like that, regardless of whether it's just a boyfriend or girlfriend or a marriage, you know. Some people come to agreement. It's kind of rare, but for the most part, like I said, I put that into my experience, like, oh, that's why my parents, like, you know, kind of didn't stay
I'll tell you
together.
something else I see in the, I guess in Hollywood, so to speak. It's like, when you going to put a ring on it? They have these men
Yeah.
chasing the women around. As where it used to be years ago, it was the women chasing the men around. And now they show this, it's exactly the opposite of the way it used to be. And I even had people tell me with my last girlfriend, they'd say, when are you going to put a ring on it? It's
Yeah.
Never.
like well, like that is going to, I did think about it. But that's going to make, like you're going to have her. They
Yeah.
send it, and you can't, it doesn't make any difference.
You shouldn't have possession of someone anyway.
It doesn't work. You can't possess anybody. But that's almost, it's the message that they send is like, well, if you put a ring on it, you're going to have it secure. And I think what happens a lot of times for the men is they get married, and then what happens is they think they have her, and they forget to do what they did when they met her. It's like you have to constantly be dating your wife. You can't just come home, sit down, drink a beer, and you know, and you're just living life. But a lot of times men think that. Well, I'm going to work. I'm bringing the food home. That's all I got to do.
I should be
You know,
able to
yeah,
sit
that's-
down. Yeah.
The old ball and chain.
Yeah.
ball and chain.
That's what we've heard people call their wives that, like, oh, I'm
Oh, the warden.
yeah, I gotta talk to a ball and chain, and it's like, man, you know, you kind of think about it. I guess me personally, you know, I guess you get so miserable at a certain point, but the issue is nowadays people get married and they get married, so they're stuck with each other financially. Whether it's the
Yeah.
woman, she doesn't have any money at all, and she's been taking care of the kids, or the man is being the complete breadwinner or something, and then they get divorced, and then she gets to take everything that he made, and now he's got to go live in this little 1-room apartment. So some women don't leave because of they don't have. They're not financially stable, and
Yeah,
then
they
some
dedicated
men,
their life to the kids
and
instead
then
of going to school.
And then
or-
some men end up, like staying because like I'm gonna lose everything. I'm gonna lose everything, if I leave. So they end up staying in
So
this.
speaking of marriage, what do you think about marriage? You think about getting married, or some of your friends, do they think about
Yeah.
marriage, or what is your opinion about marriage?
I'd
and
love to
the-
be married, but not have the government involved.
That's,
That's
yeah.
how you lose money. That's how you lose
Yeah.
like a lot of respect for someone if they were to take stuff that technically wasn't theirs.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
why even get the government involved? Why do they have to be involved
Yeah.
in the first place?
Yeah, they're
Why
very
do they need
involved
to
in the
know?
family.
And and that's kind of really, I would like to have, if I was to ever consider getting married or something, the one thing that I guess I would want would be is the ceremony. I have the ceremony, big party, you know what I'm saying? All of us having a good time. But then for the most part, I just kind of keep it, if we know we're married, what.
Yeah.
But here in
Yeah.
Missouri, if you live together for 7 years, maybe even it's considered marriage. So
Marriage,
she
yeah.
has legal rights to your property, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you get married and neither one of you have anything,
Yeah.
and you build that up together, it should be a 50-50 split. 'Cause
yeah.
It took
Yeah.
both of you. But if you have quite a bit of assets and you marry and she doesn't have anything, and you're married 3 or 4 years and she can take half, and
Yeah, that's
then
a
once you have a kid, the chances are she's going to get the kid for sure. You might get joint custody if she allows it.
Yeah.
And then you're paying until the kid's 21 or whatever. And I'll guarantee you, because I've raised you 6 kids for the last 10 years, it's much cheaper to have the kids than to pay
Yeah.
child support.
Yeah, because really, technically, at that point, not all the money is really going towards the kids. It's like it's an unrealistic amount for certain kids and stuff like that. Like 10 years old, they don't really need that much. But for the most part, like you said, I guess really the idea of the one gets people caught up in a lot of different issues, whether it be financial, emotional, sometimes even physical.
Well, it's a
with some
magical
people.
notion.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, and I understand. It looks nice. You know what I'm saying? It looks nice. Everybody wants to have some sort of love,
Yeah,
but
it's a fantasy.
but you have to really overall the best thing that you can do for yourself is really love yourself, because if that one person that you thought was the one stops loving you, well, you got yourself. You love yourself.
Well,
so-
unless you love yourself, I don't think you can actually transmit any love. How can
Yeah.
you? How can you give
Love-
away something you haven't got?
you haven't given. Yeah.
Claude, what do
comes
you
with
think
work.
about? What do you think about marriage, Claude?
Man,
Sure.
I don't really think I just couldn't get married. Like maybe I could have a girlfriend, but I don't know if I could get married, because a good example is you got Jeff Bezos. Him and his wife had a divorce, and now she's one of the richest women in the world.
Did they have children? I'm not sure.
No, they
I
didn't
don't
have
think so.
children.
I think
No, but
Now, if you want to have kids, though, how do you? What's your? Do you want to have children?
yeah, I plan on having children, but if I do have children, it's probably gonna more than likely, because me personally, I'm not a one woman man. I'm not a one woman man.
Claude,
So
the player here.
yeah, the thing is that obviously later on in the future, I'm probably gonna have more than one girlfriend, and so the thing is that I definitely plan on having kids, but it's not just gonna be with one of them. It'll have to be with at least both of them. But the thing is that I wouldn't get married because of the fact that what if I don't have custody of those kids, and then she ends up having custody. She takes a lot of the stuff that
Yeah.
a person.
It's a
has.
very high risk.
Yeah, it's a
I
really
don't know
high
what the
risk.
divorce rates are. Maybe 50-50 or 60-40.
Well,
I'm not
yeah,
sure. They're pretty-
55.
After
to,
COVID, they went up.
Yeah.
They
And
went
now
up.
I've read that 70% or somewhere right in there are initiated by the woman.
Yeah.
I've heard. So
Well, yeah, I mean, think about it. You get this dude who was very attractive, at first. Good job making money. Now he's sitting, all day, every day after work, drinking beer, playing his
fat.
video games, getting fat, dude. Like,
Yeah, that's
but I mean,
sad.
really,
then he
it's-
wonders why his wife doesn't take care of herself
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Because the man is the leader. If he's not leading, then
Yeah.
how you
what's
expect
going on?
someone else, it's hypocritical. You know what I'm saying? You sitting there, like, you just, and we're not talking kind of out of shape. We're talking fat. Like we're
Yeah.
talking big. Like I'm just working. You know.
Yeah,
I'm
it's not
coming-
healthy.
and you know, it's like it's not healthy for you, your kids, her, overall everything in your house. You know, you got to keep your. If you want, you know, for example, like you, we follow your lead. You're a very healthy man, especially for your age. You know, so that makes us want to follow behind you, be healthy, work out, take care of our bodies and stuff. Now, if you were heavy and you know you were sitting down all day, you know, drinking all day, playing video games all day, we'd probably do the same thing, exactly the same thing.
Kids learn by example. More truth is caught than taught, we say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Henry,
So-
what do you think about marriage? What's your opinion on marriage in today's modern
If
society?
I wouldn't get married personally. I would do like the ceremony and everything, but when it comes to like getting involved like with the government and stuff like that, I wouldn't want to do that because it's such a high risk. You're taking a chance. Now, like you said, if you build together and you guys get divorced, it should be even split. But if I came in with a bunch of money, assets, and everything like that, it's just such a high risk of all that being taken away from something that I built. So
And the problem with the prenup is you can't cover children with the prenup.
Yeah.
So, and also, I've heard that a prenup actually has to be renewed every 5 or 6
What?
years.
Really?
That's
Yeah.
weird.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I
if
had-
you want to keep it current, because things change.
yeah.
And any lawyer anywhere can just chop any kind of agreement apart if they want to and take you to court. So
Yeah.
but it's better to have one than not to have one. I can't see it with my glasses.
Yeah.
The average wedding costs
Okay.
over $33,000.
Dollars. So you got to think
I never
about.
spent that much on any of mine.
You got to think of, and then that probably right there. Like after, I almost feel like a wedding is like, even the ceremony is like the peak of your relationship. I feel like that's like the peak because for the most part, you know, you get like or like technically the honeymoon because the marriage, you know, you guys getting married, everybody's happy. You guys are like, you know, of course, as a person, you're loving the attention that you're getting. You know, you guys are getting with each other. You feel and think that you guys are going to stay together, but for the most part, like you see, a lot of the marriages end like very brutally too. Like they end very badly. Like
Well, and then some last, and some people say, well, they have a successful marriage, but is it successful? They may be miserable. And
Yeah.
and
There's
really,
no intimacy, and they just put up with each other because they're afraid to be apart, and financially maybe they can't do it or they don't want to do it.
goes back kind of to that little question, I guess, when it's like, you know, would you rather be poor and happy or, you know, rich and unhappy?
Miserable, yeah.
And miserable. So, you know, he's like, obviously, you know, I mean, you would think, but for the most part, you would rather almost be like poor and happy, you know, it's kind of going because, you know, would you rather be in a relationship, you know, where it looks like you're secure and you don't have to worry about, you always got someone to come to bed with, you know, sleep with, or would you, but you guys hate each other, or would you rather, you know, be broken
yeah.
up, be
That
okay with
reminds me of an
yourself?
old proverb. It's what does it say? It's better to dwell alone in a small house than in a roomy house with a quarrelsome woman.
Mhm,
Yeah.
exactly. So really,
Yeah.
like, what you think, Paulina? Like, what's been besides the fact that you know about the whole one? What do you think about marriage? Like getting married, you know, and having the ceremony and.
I think if I had a wedding, I wouldn't want it to be so public because I don't even like my relationships now public because
Yeah.
the minute that you put it out in the public, so many things could happen. Like nowadays, all these girls are texting
the haters
their
out there.
boyfriend.
Yeah.
They're
People
just
can
like
form
you
their
guys.
own opinion. You know?
Yeah, they're like, you guys don't look happy with each other. Like, you guys don't look like you're a good match for each other when they literally don't know anything
Have a
that's
clue,
going
exactly.
Yeah,
on.
they just saw a picture of you.
Yeah,
Like, oh, they look
just-
unhappy.
Yeah, they automatically think that something's not working out. So then that causes problems in the relationship because usually the guy or the girl overthinks about it. So then that causes them to either get into a fight or possibly break up or just the internet can, like, social media can just affect relationships so much. So I'd rather keep it more private. Like, I'd rather just go to the courthouse, get married there, like, legally, and then that's it. Like,
Don't you want to
any-
have a big wedding dress? And all
No.
that?
I mean, maybe my mind will change, but right now, the way that everything is, if it doesn't change when I get older, I don't want a public wedding. I'm not gonna want to have one. It's annoying and I just don't like it.
I'd like to have a reception, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, all that sounds nice. I mean, especially we came, like, you know, living in Guatemala, that's really, like, stuff like that is kind of important, you know, having, like, a big party or whatever. Just, like, having a good time because, you know, you guys are in holy matrimony or whatever.
Yeah, in Catholic culture, it's the same.
Yeah, and really, I mean, the topic overall is, like, you know, just, it's kind of everyone has such different opinions about it because of the different kind of experiences that they
Right,
had,
everybody has
you
a
know.
different experience.
And really, even if you think you're watching someone's experience from like the outside, you don't know because like, you know, some couples don't care. They'll fight in public, you know, but then they don't care. But then you get the you know, people who just would much rather no one see that at all, and just to like, you know what, like let's just keep it between us and keep it away from their kids and keep it away from the public. But like I said, a lot of people just have different amounts of, I guess, opinions and stuff that people have about it is what makes it such like makes it so interesting, because, you know, you get, for example, like all of us, we thought for a long time that we needed to find the one that was going to take care of my kids if we have kids, the one that's going to help me grow my business, support me, rub my back if I come home from a hard day of work, kind of stuff, you know. But then after a while, you try to, that's like almost, I feel like that's like nowadays it's people's goal. That's their only goal. It's
I
like,
see that a lot
gotta
too. Is to
find
find
the
that
one.
right person.
Instead
but you
of-
do have to vet the woman. If you're thinking about having a serious relationship and maybe getting committed or getting married or living together, whatever, if you're committing to it, you need to vet that girl, and then the girl does too. If she's like, if you're looking for a man for a husband, you need to make sure before you say yes, if he asks you to marry him, that he is a good provider and a good, solid, stable person. And people can hide who they are for the first 3 to 6 months of a relationship.
Yeah.
And even then, living with somebody is different also. So it's important to find out what the person is really like, and it takes time.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, that's another thing too, is like, you know, like I said, I've even found myself making it my main focus to find a girlfriend. You know, not lately, but in the past, I remember like when I was still in school, for example, I was like, that was status. You know, you had a girlfriend. If you had a girlfriend and you guys were doing good, and the longer you lasted, the better you're doing. And I see a lot of people, you know, my age still with their high school sweethearts. I'll probably say there's a decent amount. Yeah. But then I also see a decent amount of them with their high school sweethearts, and then they break up, and then they back together again like a week later, and then they break up again, and then you're almost like, oh, okay, so I see what's happening. You know, it's kind of starting to wear off. That little high school love that they had for each other is kind of going away, and it happens a lot of the times. It happens. It might not seem like it, but it happens sometimes because, you know, you get out of school and whatever it might be that either parties aren't staying in shape because they're not doing sports, or they don't have a status and they don't seem as popular because they don't like to actually go out and talk to people in public. So sometimes it's like little tiny things like that. But, and like you said, you have to make sure that, like, you know, if they're going to ask you to get married, you know, I almost think that should kind of be like a private thing. You know, you don't ask a girl to be your girlfriend in front of everybody. You don't get down.
Or you don't do it at the stadium with
it's
50,000
it's
people up on
will
the
you
billboard.
please be my girlfriend? You know, so
people
what,
have done that. I've
yeah,
seen
and
that.
so
God.
what's the difference between
They don't want her to say no, so they think.
and that's
Yeah,
and that's
that's
the thing
weird.
too, that will put the girls in the
That's a lot of
spot.
pressure.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a little pressure. I'm gonna say no in front of 50,000 people.
Yeah,
Oh, and
that's
let's not
like-
forget about TV. Too.
Yeah.
Borderline
Some girls-
abusive behavior.
Some girls just
funny,
don't
like,
care. They'll just say no in front of
Yeah, I mean,
everybody.
but that's the thing.
good,
Like,
though.
shit,
Yeah, if
like,
they don't wanna do
if
it,
you don't want to
Yeah.
do it, you should be able to say no. That should be kind of a conversation amongst you two. You know, it's like, do you want to get married? Like, you know, kind of like you ask the girl. Like I said, you don't ask the girl in public, will you be my girlfriend? You know, it's like
Yeah.
you don't get down on one knee in school. Will you please be my girlfriend? So
Yeah.
that should be a conversation amongst both the people. You know, if
Yeah,
you really
that
want to
should be
decide to
a-
get married,
yeah.
and it should also go beyond like, are we getting married for love, or are we getting married for financial stability together? Are we trying to build something from this as well, or are we just doing it because we think we love each other? And that's, you know, you're not going to think about that when you're in a relationship because you think you love her or you love him.
Or how many people get married because their friends are getting married, their
Yeah.
girlfriends
Yeah.
are all getting married, and they're not running around with them anymore. And guys too, they think. I remember when I was in my 20s, I had the idea that I had to be married. Because if I didn't, I was going to end up being an old man by myself. That was in my 20s. And I really think that a man should not be worried about getting married till he's established in his 30s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a much better father in my 40s than I would have been in my 20s. I don't think I became a father till I was 37. But in my 20s, I just wanted to run around. So I wasn't a good husband at all to my first wife, and I certainly wouldn't have been a good father.
Yeah.
I think that's why grandparents are so much better with the kids. They've had a lot more years to
Yeah.
have wisdom and.
Yeah.
How about our sound man back here? What's his opinion?
What's
on
your opinion
the theory
on-
of the one? Isaac here.
So-
Isaac's our sound and cameraman tonight.
What's your opinion on the,
The
one?
one.
You know what I'm saying?
Is there the one out there for you?
I feel like there is definitely. I feel like there's a one for me. Am I gonna find it in my 20s, like you were talking about? Probably not.
Yeah, and that's like that's the realization you have to come with being our age, you know what I'm saying? So like, and really technically, I guess, to find the one, you know, like you should have to go through you know, for example, like me, go through a bunch of different girls. Cause if you have never really dated a girl or been with more than 2 girls, do you really know what you want? You know,
Yeah.
you're basing it off of these 2
Right.
partners that you had, you
Or
know.
off of Hollywood,
Or
or
off
off
of Hollywood,
you
you
know, parent
Yeah.
expectations.
Uh-huh,
just,
so-
Well, they have this happily ever after, and it's just like life is not. Even if you're by yourself, it's never happily ever after. Even if you get everything you want, I believe you do get everything you want, although you don't realize it at the time, because everything you have today is something you wanted yesterday. People don't think about that. Everything that you have is something you wanted yesterday.
I almost think they should put like a disclaimer at the beginning of movies or books, like, "Hey, this isn't true. You know, this is Hollywood. This is like
Don't try this at home.
don't try this. You know how they tell you that with stunts, like, hey, don't try and fall in love with some stranger at the at the
Yeah.
gas station or
Yeah,
something."
they show the guy. The woman's leaving on the airplane. He decides
running
He's
on the
running,
runway
chasing
or
her after.
something.
He goes up illegally on the airplane, grabs her, and she says, "Oh, honey, I'm glad you came."
Yeah,
They get
How are
married,
you doing
and
this post 9/11, bro?
They walk off into the sunset. You know.
That's what. And that's. I mean, I get it. You know, it seems cool. It does. It seems cool.
Movies
you
are
know?
not reality. That's why they're
No.
movies, and they got
Yeah.
We wouldn't go watch them if they were real life. More than likely,
Mhm.
occasionally somebody has an adventurous life that makes a good movie, but they even dramatize that. up a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
bit.
oh
Yeah.
yeah. That's really, you know, kind of a thing. And really, even people just do that with their day-to-day stories. You know, you'll tell a story and something like that, you know, let's say you got your car spinning or something. You added an extra
It's
spin.
like the
or
fish
something to
story.
kinda-
That fish keeps getting bigger every time you tell
Every
it.
time you say- yeah, exactly. So, I
I mean,
mean,
the thing is, I think that the one nowadays, finding the one, the chances that in this generation is slim. It is very, very slim. And I think that most people that end up getting married, they think that that's the one until you're really
Yeah, until they're
into the
living with them for a
relationship.
few years, you know, or
And that-
something.
And then sometimes you got like the mom and dad, they stay in the relationship even though, you know, they really don't like it, but they stay for the kids. You
Yeah.
know?
It's also unrealistic for me to say that I could be just like my parents because they were married in '89.
Yeah.
It is much more economically stable at the time, I'd say. You know, it's easier to just, you know, get a job, move up, you know, like how my dad did. But it's really hard to do that nowadays.
yeah,
And
unless you got an
and to
actual
take
skill
care.
or
Yeah.
something. Yeah. And that's, I mean, yeah, that's for sure.
Things have changed quite a bit. I know when I grew up, it was all about get a career at McDonnell Douglas, Boeing,
Yeah.
or Monsanto, work there, and then retire with good retirement. Things have changed
pension,
quite a bit.
Yeah.
Things change every day the way technology is. So
my uncle's pension got cut.
Yeah,
that happens too.
Yeah.
Savings and pensions, that all happened back in the late 2008, and some people lost everything. then. Paulina, what kind of a man, when you decide you want to get married, what do you think kind of a man will you be looking for? What will you be looking for in a man if you were thinking of getting married?
Probably a guy. I'd want to say like a guy, like if there was somebody else out there like you or Henry, more like they're actually doing stuff.
Me or Henry? Now, which one is it?
They're actually like
me right
doing
now.
stuff for themselves. Like they have a good job, not like a job at a restaurant that they're probably
Right.
gonna lose
They're
in like 2
financially
years.
stable.
Yeah, I want them to be stable. I don't want them to like us to go like in debt when we're married because then he's probably gonna try to depend
Yeah.
on me to do something about it too.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, if
Yeah,
I
because
were to,
debt really causes a lot of dissension in relationships.
and then
Continue.
they'd come home and they'd be like, I don't know what to do. It's like what you were talking about last time we did the podcast. You were talking about how we wouldn't want to see you here like, oh, guys, I don't know what we're going to do. Like something
Right.
happened
Yeah.
at your job or something. You're like, oh, I don't know what to do. I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want my husband to come home saying, like,
You want me to come
oh,
home and say, you know what, I lost my job today, but we're going to be okay. I'll
Yeah.
figure it out. Things will work
yeah,
out.
but now it's like if a guy loses his
Whether
job,
I meant it or not.
he,
You want me to
he'll
say
lose
it?
his job and he'll come home and he'll either be like really mad or he'll be like crying like I don't know what we're gonna do.
So you want a man with inner strength.
yeah.
And that's what all women want, a man that's strong on the inside.
Yeah.
That can handle things and take care of things. He's not going to be a child and cry when things don't go right or lean on his woman like his mama or something.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like more like I'd lean towards somebody more like you or Henry, because like if there was somebody else out there like you guys, but there really isn't. Because
Now, do you think you'll want to support yourself? I mean, are you going to want to work, or you want to stay home and be a stay-at-home mom? And
I'd
raise
rather be a
kids?
stay-at-home mom,
Yeah.
mainly because the guy works, the girl stays home, cleans, cooks for the guy when he gets back home.
Now, see, there's something that of course, you guys know I had the hater the other day on YouTube talking about me because I did a video on dating foreign women versus American women. And she said, oh, you guys don't get it. Said these women just go out with you for your money, your support, or whatever because they want something. But I would much rather my daughter go out with a guy here that was in good standing, maybe come from a good family, or he had a good career, or he's doing something with himself, than the guy who works at McDonald's. He's not going anywhere and he's just partying and drinking all night. I mean, of course, I would like my daughter to marry a man that could support her, and of course, that means financially, of course, too. So it is important. I mean, you want a man that's going to be able, especially if you want to be a stay-at-home mother. Because if you don't stay at home with your kids, you got somebody at the daycare raising them 8-10 hours a day. You're paying for that.
Yeah, who
You
knows
have
what's going on there?
Exactly.
You know?
You have no idea what values they're putting on. And
Yeah.
as men, when you look for a woman, you have to realize that these kids are going to be half of her, and she's going to be influencing them. So we got to know that she's going to be a good mother, and she's going to pass on good moral values or whatever to your
I'd
kid.
rather have a guy that I'd rather date a guy or get married to a guy who has like a good job, because if you were to come home and tell me like, oh, you need to get a job too, then that's when I would have to pay for somebody else to take care of my kid. When
Right.
I'd rather do that myself.
Exactly.
And I wouldn't want to be like, hey, you need to get it together, because that's not what a girl's supposed to do. Like a girl's not supposed to tell a man like, oh, you need to get it together. Like,
Yeah, they just want a man to know what he's supposed
yeah,
to do.
he should already know. Like, he shouldn't try to have me to go get a job and then him stay at home, go and find a job when he's just sitting at home drinking on the couch or something.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's there's nothing wrong with being a stay-at-home mom, because moms are better at raising the kids. You know what I'm saying? Than usually men are, because men are more stern, more for the most part. Women are more caring and more loving. They can be. But I just personally think that being a stay-at-home mom is, for certain people, is the best option.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some women, of course, they can't stay at home because they don't have a husband or whatever, and
Yeah.
they have to work. But yeah, if you can stay home, I think for the children, it's better that.
Yeah.
That's why I would much rather get married before having a kid.
Yeah.
Because then, like,
Well,
if
yeah.
I had a kid with somebody, they could leave, and it wouldn't be a problem for them. Like, because usually here in Missouri, it's like it's like a woman's state. It's like she gets like full custody, whether in like a custody battle.
Unless she's an axe murderer,
Yeah.
usually, or she's a
Yeah.
drug addict.
Yeah,
Prove
so-
me, yeah, she usually gets full
She
custody.
usually gets full custody. I mean, I would like to have my own job, but not if I have a husband who has a good job and we're in like
Right.
a good spot. I would much rather have a job before I got married, and then
So you need a high value man is what you need, and they're rare, really. But that's what you need: someone who can take care of you. And that's what a high value man wants. He wants a woman that's going to stay home, take care of the kids,
yeah, and now
and not so much submit. A lot of women will say, I seen a guy on, it was probably Oprah Winfrey or something 20 years ago, and he was talking about wanting a woman to stay home, take care of the kids. And the women in the audience, oh, you want a slave. You want a slave. My point on that is this. If a man wants a woman to stay home, take care of the kids, and he takes care of her, how is she more of a slave than him? Because he has to go out and work to take care of the house, the family, and the kids. So they both serve each other. I don't look at it as so much being a slave as serving each other in the best way possible that you're able to do.
Yeah.
Because men normally have a higher income ratio than women do. And so they're able to make more money, and the woman can stay home and raise the kids.
yeah, I know a lot of girls that are like, no, I'm not going to be a slave for a guy when I get older, and it's like, okay,
But yet they'll
That's
go out
okay.
and be a slave for the boss. And they'll cooperate with the boss and do everything for him, but yet they don't want to do that for their husband if he's able to take care of them financially.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whenever that person is more important, really, it's more your husband is more important to you than really your boss.
But
you
they're
know?
they're taught that by society, like there's something wrong with the cooperation to a man. it
Yeah,
seems
and
like.
that like she was talking, she would rather get married to a guy before they have a kid. A lot of the initiative to getting married nowadays, like people our age, it's because they have a kid. They end up having kids, and they end up having a kid, they're like, oh, okay, well, best thing we can do right now is get married. And
Yeah, that's an old belief. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, so-
Yeah,
It's kind of worn
back,
out.
yeah, back to the
Well-
to the main topic about like the one. That's the thing people do is like they'll get like a lot of times the girl will get herself pregnant because she wants to stay with the guy, she wants to keep him, which they do stuff to try to keep somebody, or the guy will try to marry the girl because he thinks if I get her married, then everything's gonna be okay. And-
Well, I'm sure there's times when the guy tries to get the girl pregnant because
Yeah,
he wants her.
that's
also.
a-
I know about
Thinking
I know
that's
about an
gonna-
instance. I know about an instance
Thinking
like
that's
that.
going to lock
Trapping.
them in.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Yeah.
wrong, dude.
Yeah, there's no way you can lock anybody in with a ring or a pregnancy or anything. If
Yeah.
somebody wants to go, they're going to go.
Yeah.
Been my experience, because I've been married 4 times, if the other person doesn't want to work on it, you cannot do it by yourself, and you will wear yourself out and destroy yourself trying to do it. I've almost done it a couple times trying to make it work. If they don't want to stay, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, no matter what you do.
a big thing like recently I was hanging out with one of my buddies and stuff, and he was talking about his parents fighting or something, and I was just like, oh yeah, I was like, is your dad gonna like, I was like, is he gonna leave? Like, where does he work? What does he do? He's like, oh no, my mom brings in all the money, and she had a nice house and everything like
Yeah.
that. But whenever I met them, I could just see, she had this just deep rooted, almost what felt like a hatred for him. She
Probably resented him.
him because and I could almost tell what kind of person she was before she got into this marriage. She probably was wanting exactly the same thing as Paulina. She just seemed like that sort of person, and like I said, you could kind of tell that she resented him because
Well, I think when the woman has to take the masculine role. Now, there are some women that can do that.
yeah.
Some women are born more masculine than feminine. They have more of those traits. But in general, women, when they have to take a masculine role in a relationship, they resent the man for that because the man.
That's why women have affairs, because they don't want to stay.
Yeah.
They'll find somebody better than the guy that they're with at the time. If the guy's just not doing anything with himself and she's out working, cleaning the house, doing
Exactly.
everything, she's gonna go find somebody else.
She doesn't feel safe with a man
Yeah.
like that.
Which
He's weak.
really is like, a lot of people get mad at that, and everything, but there's like really nothing wrong with that. She's got to do what's best for like her and her, and
Yeah.
if there's kids, her and her
Right.
kids almost like, so like you said, that's why they have affairs. Dude sitting on the couch drinking beer whenever she could be going out with this, 6-figure dude who takes care of himself
And is always doing
is
something.
Always doing
And
something.
then sometimes the guy that the girl's with, not the one that she would be having an affair with, the guy that she's with at the moment, wouldn't even care because he's being taken care of.
Yeah,
He would just
pretty
be
much.
like, he wouldn't believe it. If like one of his friends came and told him, hey, I saw her out with this guy, he wouldn't believe it. He'd believe her, and he wouldn't care because he's being taken care of. So basically, she
crazy.
could go out and cheat on him, and he could come and find out, or she could bring a guy to the house, and he's just like, okay.
Okay.
He doesn't care. He just wants to be taken care of.
I
Like,
went out with a girl once, and she had her ex-husband living in the basement.
Oh my. That's what they call it. What did they say?
She
It's
was
like,
an
oh,
accountant. She made really good money. I mean, we had a good time. But it's
someone,
like,
I think you made a joke or someone's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna sleep at the edge of my wife's boyfriend's bed or something. Like that.
No,
Someone. He
I
worked
never
with
heard that
someone.
one.
His wife made him sleep on the floor, dude.
Ah,
So I'm in the doghouse tonight.
I'd say.
Oh my god.
That's worse than a dog. I let my dog sleep in the bed.
yeah.
Really, it's like
You're on the dog floor tonight.
yeah, and that's like what happens. Like you said, it's a very very big thing happening nowadays.
I know a lot of guys men complain here in the U.S. about the women having so much power in the courts, but I have to blame it on the men because as leaders, we've become weak and we've allowed, and women don't feel safe with men so much, so they're pushing for these laws to protect them because they don't feel
Yeah.
protected by the men.
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly.
Because the men are the ones that have allowed this to happen by their inactions or actions or whatever.
I mean, really, you think about it. You same kind of like a just little analogies. You hire security. You pay him good money, and just the dude's like falling asleep, in the car that he's driving with or something like that. You're like, hey, give me my money back. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
find
go
somebody
get somebody
else,
who's
yeah.
gonna protect me for this
yeah.
kind of money.
Right.
So like, and that's what it is with them. I guess I don't know what would be compared to the money. I guess maybe potentially emotions, or just like holding you down or helping you out as your wife. It's like I can help you out as long as you let me know I'm protected, or you show me that I'm protected, and it will be fine. It's like if you can't do that, then I'm gonna go find someone who can.
Yeah.
Someone who can do it. Which, like you said, you for the most part you blame the men because they've just became so weak and so fragile and just so like
Right.
feeble. They just like you wouldn't trust, even a guy wouldn't trust this guy. Like, you know, for example, it's like, oh, I think someone's looking for me. It's like, oh yeah, no, it's like, oh, be safe with that. You know, you want someone who's like, okay, bet if he comes after us, we're gonna get him. You know, instead of like, oh man, like I don't know, if can I help? You know, just scared, almost weak. You know, you don't need. If you want to be a strong man, you know, a good example to your friends, kids, wife, whatever it may be. You have to hang around people who are stronger than you, better than you.
Well, I believe there's few women that would want to be with a man if a criminal breaks in the door at night would feel like that they would want a man that would say, well, honey, will you go down tonight? I mean, we're equal partners. I really kind of scared. I went down last week. It's your turn this week.
Yeah, we got broken into last week, so go ahead.
Most women want a man who says, hey, honey, I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to go down and take care of it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I mean, call the police, and I'll go down there and you know, because sometimes you don't have time for the police to get there. So I think every woman.
And really a big thing too is like for the most part, you know, like whenever we first moved up here, I don't like whenever that thing happened when we were living at grandma's house, like something slammed the door or something, and you went and made sure what it was while mom came back and made sure the kids were okay. You know, she sat back with the kids, making sure that nothing was going to harm them, while you went around outside, and made sure outside, you know, just gun loaded, trying to figure out what was going on. Maybe if someone got in and slammed the door or something. But really, a lot of the people, like for example, you said they shouldn't have to go downstairs. And as a matter of fact, they shouldn't even have to stand by your side or behind you. No. They should be with the children. They need or taking care of themselves, you know, making sure they're okay. Because your main goal on you going out there is to make sure that they are safe. You know, you're not going out there just to pretty much, you know, like you're not going out there just to make a scene or whatnot. You're going out there to make sure that they're okay. And if you get hurt, you're giving them a chance to get away and be safe. You know what I'm saying? So really, that's like you said. It's like, oh, you can't hit them with the bat's underneath the bed, honey. Go down there and see it.
Well, the gun's over on the closet.
Come on, just please.
Well, Paulina, now when you go out with a guy, do you want to feel like that he can protect you? I mean.
Yeah, I'd be scared if like he was like say there was a girl that was bullying me, like, and I was driving around with a guy and he was like,
we'll go fight her.
He was like, well, go find her, go fight her or something. And I'm just like, I don't want to go out there. And he's like,
instead of him stepping up and being like, you know what?
Don't worry about it. You're with me. You're going to be okay.
Yeah, like if we went to the store or something and he was like, okay, well, you can go in there. I'll be waiting in the car. And she's in there. And I'm like, I'm not going to go in there alone. I'm not going to go in there at all, actually. You can take me back to my house. I'm not going to do that if you're not going to be there to actually protect
back you
me.
up.
This is a real experience.
Yeah, because then it's like...
Okay, it's hypothetical. Okay.
Yeah. It's like...
I'm afraid of a little girl.
Oh, no. I would definitely want to be with a guy who could protect me, because if I go to a store and I go in there alone and there's a girl in there and I tell him to come in there and he's just like, well, no, I'm in the car, like I'm listening to music, you just hurry up and come out here. I'd just be like, okay, I'm going out there and you're taking me home. I don't want to go out with you anymore.
You know, like you said that you like, and I honestly have seen it too. You know, growing up, I'm 21 now, you know, and so you watched me grow up from being a scared kid to being someone like who I have to be, you know. And one of the things is too, like with you, we've never felt in danger. You know, anytime like we were younger, if we were younger, we heard something or something, like I just remember always hearing the words, I'm not going to let nothing hurt you. And even if you didn't believe it, we did. We needed to hear that. Because if you were like, oh, I don't know what it is, like we need to find somewhere to hide, that would make the situation so much worse. But, you know, you would tell us, like, for example, I remember I got into playing this little game, and I just thought that this Slender Man was going to come after me. And then you came up to me, and you hugged me, and you told me, you're like, you let me sleep in the same bed. You're like, hey, I'm not going to let nothing touch you. Nothing's going to hurt you. And I was able to sleep. You know, I felt like, you know, like you were right, you know, regardless of whether anything or nothing at all was going to come or happen, you know, and I would feel like that was probably the same way with all your women too.
That's the job of a man, to take care of his woman and his children. I mean, that just goes back for ages, and it's no different today, contrary to what people... I mean, they show these movies of these 120-pound women beating up these
260
special forces guys, security for the president. They're not. I mean, it's unrealistic, but we know movies are not reality, and that's why people like to go watch them. But I think some people become to believe those things. But yeah, like living in Central America is like living in the Wild West. People up here in the States have no idea how dangerous it is in some third world countries. I mean, I was robbed at gunpoint down there. I've had to. I guess I'd say assault. I had to knock a couple people down that tried to get in your mother's face and bothered her. And yeah, somebody else tried to rob me one time when I was running. I had to knock one of those guys down. So it's a constant danger down there.
And another thing too, it wasn't even just the people. Sometimes you had to worry about the land. I remember one time waking up in the living room in a sheet, and I'm like, "Why am I in here?" There was a bad earthquake, and my dad could do nothing. So all he did was wrap us up in a blanket, took us outside, and make sure so the house wasn't going to collapse on us. So not only do you have to worry down there about people after you, I mean, the land is unstable, you know, it's hard to live there. You know, there's just the one thing there here in Missouri, it's not as bad, but tornadoes are a thing. Down there, earthquakes are a thing. So like I said,
It was exciting down there.
yeah, it was almost
You
exciting.
just never knew what was going to happen.
Literally, it's like anything. If it wasn't, you know, something, it was always something else, you know. So that was, but like I said, going back to the thing, you know, we were safe. You know, you always made sure that we were safe. You always made sure that we got that before you were okay. You made sure that we were okay. You know, and because you took it, it was your job. You know, you put yourself in a situation to where you have a lot of kids. You know, you got to be prepared to protect those kids at any cost. You know?
Throughout history, man has always put his life. Look at the Titanic. I mean, the women and children, at least the ones that they could, got saved, and the men willingly went to death. Throughout history, the men are the ones that went to battle and willingly died, so their offspring and their wives could live and move on.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is and the way it's been, and it hasn't really changed. I think sometimes they act like it's different now, but it's not. I mean, as a man, I believe you're supposed to put your life on the line for your wife and family. That's a man's job.
Yeah, and really now, you know, we're very fortunate, you know, now, especially now we live up here in the United States as well. That also applies, but being up here in the United States is you don't have to worry about you having to be the one to go to war, you know, as much as back like, you know, thousands of years ago. So
You are putting your life on the line, but in a different context.
So now there's different challenges throughout the day-to-day basis, you know. So like, for example, a burglar breaks into the house, you know, you got to get up, you got to go and make sure that everything's cool, you know. So like, really, like you said, kind of lost my train of thought there, but you got to make sure that you're protecting your kids. You know, if you're gonna have kids, you make sure that you protect. Like that's the one thing, in my opinion. If I have kids, is the one thing I want to make sure is that they are protected.
Well, and in general, I think most women want that kind of man, and most men want a woman that's going to take care of the kids and raise the kids.
Because, you know, like you said, like and we have different specialties as men and women. You know, I can make sure that I can take down any possible threat to your lives. And then, you know, your mother can make sure that she's going to sit there and tell you, it's going to be okay. You know, it's easier to hear, like, it's going to be okay whenever there's, like, someone in the house from your mom than it would be your dad. You know what I'm saying? So, really, that's the two parts, I guess, having a mom and a dad. You know, your dad's, like, physically protecting the children while the mom is mentally protecting the children.
Yeah, I never thought about it until we're talking now about so many single mothers. I don't know how it must be for them being in a house by themselves and they hear something outside because, as you know, it may take the police 5, 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes to get to you. If you're out in the country, so that must be terribly frightening for the kids and the woman as well.
And that's why you see a lot of the times too is like which is very unfortunate. I kind of, in a sense, was the same, but under different circumstances. You see the oldest son sometimes having to take the oldest son or whatever.
What do they call that? He becomes the daddy or the father.
I can't.
There's a term for it. I don't know what it is.
The man of the house.
The man of the house.
The man of the house. So like,
that,
and he ends up having to go and sacrifice. Sometimes in bad situation, he ends up going and sacrificing his life because his dad, it was a different case for you and for us. You know, like you weren't a deadbeat. Like some parents, like just don't want to take care of their kids or whatnot. But like I said, sometimes the kid the oldest son, or sometimes even in certain cases the oldest daughter, ends up having to take some sort of lead because they lack a father, whether it might be because he left or the wife didn't want him there. Whatever the case may be, you see the next of kin, the oldest son, the oldest daughter, whatever, go and try to take charge of a situation like that. And then they end up losing their lives or getting hurt or just something like that, So it goes back to making sure that you find the right person so that you guys aren't being you and your kids aren't being put in a situation, or your kids and your wife aren't being put in a situation that they couldn't handle.
Well, Paulina's probably been the one before. Have you ever been the one, Paulina, for some guy?
Yeah, you guys were talking about earlier how guys like to say, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do without you. I've been put in that situation so many times.
How does that make you feel? Like when you
Suffocated. I absolutely hate it. It makes me uncomfortable because then it's like, okay, well, if he actually does do it, I'm responsible for, I guess, taking someone's life. So it's
Not
like,
really.
it's like,
but
societally, technically,
Yeah.
like it's
societally.
his fault.
Oh,
he's
you
putting so
monster.
much pressure on
yeah,
you.
so it's like, oh, if I actually break up with him and he actually goes and kills himself or hurts himself,
I'm sure you
and
would feel bad, but it's really not your
yeah,
responsibility.
and then he'd probably
Can't
tell
make
his,
someone do
he'd probably
something.
tell his parents, and then his mom would probably be like, oh, what is wrong with you? Why would you do that to my son? He told you this and that. And I was like, I just don't want to be with him. Like, just-
But now, on the other hand, I've been in situations where now a man doesn't want, or a guy, whatever, doesn't want a girl that's out running around partying half the night and doing it because he doesn't want her to be out there unprotected. Okay, so I was in a situation in my last girlfriend that she said she felt strangled because I'm like, I don't like that you're out partying until, well, actually, it was like all night plus till 3 o'clock the next day. She says, well, I'm not doing anything. I said, it's not the point. I said, I have a hard time sleeping knowing my woman's out there unprotected, even though she told me, she said, well, I'm with friends that I trust and this and that. But she didn't know that I knew a couple times they actually had some problems where there was almost a fight and the police got involved, different things like this drama. And all men want to know that, at least most men, myself, want to know that their woman is protected.
Yeah.
And you can't, if she's out running around in party environments with drugs and alcohol or whatever,
And just
no matter
crazy
what
people.
she tells you, you just don't really feel, it's not, a man really doesn't want that.
Yeah.
He doesn't, it's not the kind
Doesn't
of
feel
woman a high value man wants.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably why certain people have thought, like she's the one. She's very well protected. I mean, she's very well protected, and then on top of that, she's kind of a homebody. I want a homebody. Like I want a woman who's
Nobody
a
wants
homebody.
this woman out half the night partying, regardless whether she's with all girls or
Or
whatever.
even security.
I mean, if she's
for the
with
matter
me,
of fact.
whatever.
That's
but-
fine. If you're with me, that's fine. But like even I'm thinking right now, even if I had some sort of security detail, that could be the best of the best. But I still wouldn't feel safe unless she was with
Yeah.
me.
Right.
I just, and even if we're in a certain environment like that, you never know what's going to happen.
Plus, even your mother, when I met her, it was a different deal. Of course, we dated for a while, and she was down in Central America, and I was here. And because she was dating a gringo, there was the threat of maybe someone accosting her, kidnapping her, whatever. So I actually hired security to take care of her, when I wasn't down there because there was a couple threats there. And that's a little different deal. But every man, or at least a high value man, wants to take care of his woman and will do that. But it's more of a protection thing. It's not so much, I wasn't worried about her running around on me. And as with this last girlfriend, I wasn't so much worried about that. It's just the fact that knowing they're out there in an environment where they could be hurt and you can't do anything about it, because every man wants to protect. It's a territorial protected. It's something we're evolutionarily programmed with.
And a lot of people get that twisted with.
Yeah, they think like, well, you're insecure or you want to control.
Or-
it has
yeah.
nothing to do with control. Controlling is like, I got her here and I'm taking her keys away and I take her money away so she can't
So
go
she can't
anywhere.
go out
Yeah.
nowhere. No, and that's
I mean,
really
she's always got the choice, but I'll still
Exactly.
worry about it.
Exactly. So
You
that's
know?
the thing too.
That's
Like
natural.
another thing, like you were saying, a lot of people get that twisted with, having. It's like, oh, if you don't trust her, it's like, don't. It's like, well, it's not that I don't trust. I don't trust. I don't necessarily not trust, but the people or where she's at, the environment. I don't trust the environment or whatever it might be. It's not about not trusting her. It's not trusting what the universe is going to throw out to her.
I
you
feel
know?
like that would be very select environments for me
Yeah,
personally.
yeah, there-
Like if it's just a regular show, house party, like go ahead.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
Like if it's
Well,
like,
for example, where you perform over at Pops, I wouldn't want
Yeah.
my girlfriend going over there with a couple of her girlfriends because I've been over there years ago. I know the area is dangerous. Once she gets in the club, she's probably okay, but still, it's just not a
Yeah.
very
It's like
safe.
outside. The security applies to inside, not outside of the
Right.
club. So really, you can't. They can at that point they can't really control what's going on.
Right.
I'd be more like you said. I'd be more secure knowing. Oh, she's in the club.
Even with
she's
a group
over
of
by-
girls, if somebody comes up there to accost her, none of those girls are going to be able to protect her like a man or like you
like
could.
you
if
could,
were
yeah,
with
if
her.
you were there, yeah.
And then a lot of times these girls think that, oh, well, you just want to control me or you're insecure. It has nothing to do with that. It's something within us as men to want to protect the people we love. It has nothing to do with control or insecurity.
Yeah, yeah. That's another thing too. Like I wonder often how, for example, you with so many kids, how do you decide on her? How did you decide or break it down on when and where to let them go or let us go? You know, so like what I know it's probably about the same. You know, if you thinking about like a girlfriend or something like that, or you know, now I'm 21, so regardless, I'm gonna go where
Right.
I want to go and stuff. But
Yeah,
what
but,
make
like when we were younger.
yeah, so what made you when we were younger? Like, what was the decisions or the questions that ran through your mind whenever we asked you to go somewhere?
Well, I want to meet the wherever you're going to go meet the parents for one thing, and then of course like Paulina came the other day with that guy, so I went out there and met him, and I just told him, I said, I was 14 once, I said, so I know how it is, and I told him straight up, I said, when she's with you, you're responsible. If something happens, you need to step in front, you need to protect her. She's not going to be hurt while she's with you, is she? And he said, no, of course. And I would expect him that if something happened to her, that he had tried to stop it if he could. Not to run away or to be afraid. But first off, not to even put her in a situation where it
Yeah.
would be dangerous.
Yeah.
So, and I wanted to know that, and I got that across to him.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, I don't really think I absolutely need a boyfriend to protect me because I have like all of you guys. I have 5 of you guys.
Her overprotective.
So
Yeah,
like,
or-
so like, if one of
overprotective,
you guys
yeah.
can protect me, I'll just go to that one, and then if that one can't, then I just keep going and going.
But yeah, when they're around, but when you're out by yourself or with your
Yeah.
boyfriend or with another friend, that's a different
Yeah,
story.
it's nice to have a boyfriend, but like I don't absolutely need one to protect me because I have all of you. I feel
Right.
protected, like how we were talking about earlier, how you protect us and tell us we're okay. Like when it storms, because I'm like terrified of them.
Yeah.
When it storms, I feel better when you like tell me I'm gonna be okay. Like even if you're out, if it's storming, you make sure I'm okay. Like you text me, you see if I texted you.
Right.
And even if I did, you tell me everything's going to be okay. And then that's when I automatically feel safe. But like sometimes when you're all the way traveling or something and it's storming, I feel like if you're with them, like how you guys were at the Lake of the Ozarks, if it was storming, I would be scared. But if you text me, I would have been better.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I feel, even if you're not with me, knowing that you think I'm going to be okay makes me feel safe.
Well, I wouldn't tell you we're going to be okay. If I thought there was danger, I would do something,
Yeah.
have someone come here, do something to get, to put you in a safe place or whatever. A safe place.
Be safe.
We got to have our safe place.
That's really all for me on this topic, really.
Yeah.
Claude, do you have anything? Anybody else want to comment here?
I got nothing.
Henry?
I'm out of stuff.
Paulina? Calvin?
No, I'm good.
All right, well, I guess that's all we got for today. Thanks for joining us and appreciate my guests here. And we would like to invite some girls if they want to come and join us and be our guests next week. We would like to have you. And